Okay, so you know how you send us those legal documents?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's this thing that really jumped out at us
Okay. What's that?
in Clay Hackett's first affidavit.
Yeah.
Specifically in Chapter 3, it says 0615 was dismissed.
Mm.
That's a pretty strong statement.
Right.
But then we've got this other document, the comprehensive report on 06 of 15 and 22 of 17.
Right.
Which talks about Ministry of Labor officer registration records and finds two different registration dates.
Interesting.
So this whole 06 Fufrin was dismissed thing from the affidavit feels super important, like a clue or something. Why that date? Dismissed in what way?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the key to unlocking what's going on here.
Yeah, you're definitely onto something.
So let's back up a bit. Just to be clear, the first document we have is called Clay Hackett First Affidavit Judicial Review.pdf.
Right.
As the name suggests, it seems to be an affidavit filed with the court office of the Judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago.
Makes sense.
Now, it's really important to understand what an affidavit actually is. It's a sworn statement, right?
Yeah.
It's like someone's giving their account of things under oath.
Exactly.
And this specific copy has a big disclaimer right up front. It says it's an office copy, and that means it doesn't actually confirm anything in it is true, unless the original document came straight from the judiciary.
Interesting. So it's more like a record of what was said, not necessarily a guarantee of the facts.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an important distinction.
So when we see that statement, 06 Fistine was dismissed, we know that's Clay Hackett's claim.
Okay, I see.
It's part of his legal document. Oh, and for reference, the document access code is ZII1-Z58E, and the verification number is CV201A015544.
Got it.
Now on to the second document. This is the comprehensive report on 06 of 15 and 22 of 17.pdf.
Okay.
It's pretty clear this report is all about stuff that happened on those two specific dates.
Right.
And like we mentioned, it digs into these Ministry of Labor officer registration records and finds two different registration dates. Just for context, these records are basically about who's officially allowed to do certain labor-related things.
So is it like who's certified or licensed?
Exactly.
I'm with you.
The thing is, though, even though this report is all about 06 of 15 and even talks about these registration records,
Yeah.
it doesn't say anything at all about anything being dismissed on 0615. It's like it's looking at one very specific piece of the puzzle, these registration records,
Yep.
but not at any kind of legal outcomes from that time.
That is curious.
So that brings us back to our main question for this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
We have Hackett's affidavit saying 0615 was dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have this report that examines stuff happening on that same date, but no mention of a dismissal.
Right.
It's a head scratcher, isn't it?
It is.
So we really need to break down what these documents are telling us to even start to understand this.
Agreed.
Let's go back to that line in the affidavit again.
Verse 615 was dismissed.
Right.
Chapter 3 of Clay Hackett's sworn statement.
Okay.
What jumps out at you about that, knowing everything else we've talked about?
Well, first of all, dismissed is a legal term, right?
Yeah.
It usually means some kind of legal action is over. A case or a claim or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So it seems like something related to 0615 went through some kind of legal process
Yeah.
and then it was stopped.
Yeah.
But we don't know what exactly was dismissed. Was it a whole lawsuit or just a part of a bigger case or something else entirely?
That's the missing piece, isn't it?
It is. The affidavit just doesn't give us that detail.
And that's where this comprehensive report could have been so helpful. You'd think if there was a big legal thing happening on that date.
Right.
And this report is all about official records from that time. There'd be some connection,
Yeah, you'd expect some kind of mention of it.
especially since it goes into so much detail about those Ministry of Labor registration records.
Like it's really focused on who was registered when and all those specifics. Right. And yet, nothing about a dismissal.
Exactly. It's like these two documents are talking about the same time period, but they're not talking to each other.
It's like they're in their own separate worlds.
Yeah.
So what could explain that?
Well, keeping in mind we're only working with these two documents,
Right.
there are a few possibilities.
Okay, what's your own?
First, this comprehensive report probably has a very specific focus, right?
Yeah, on those Ministry of Labor records.
Exactly. So maybe it wasn't meant to cover every legal thing happening at the same time.
Even if it involved the same people or dates.
Exactly. Maybe this dismissal was about something completely different.
Ah, I see. So it could be like they're looking at employment records, but there was also a contract dispute happening that got dismissed on the same day, but it's not mentioned in the report.
Right, it's something like that.
Okay.
The report might just be looking at a very specific slice of what was going on.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Second, maybe the dismissal is related to these Ministry of Labor registrations somehow.
Okay.
But the report we have isn't complete.
So we might just be missing that part.
Exactly. It could be a summary, or someone just pulled out the parts about the registrations themselves.
That's a good point. We don't know if we're seeing the whole picture with either of these documents.
Exactly.
Okay, what's the third possibility?
Well, this is a big one, and it goes back to that Chapter 3 thing in the affidavit.
Right, the fact that it specifically says it's from Chapter 3.
Yeah. Legal documents are usually laid out in a specific way for a reason.
Sure.
So my guess is the other parts of the affidavit, the stuff before and after Chapter 3, probably give us more context.
So maybe they explain what 0615 actually refers to.
Right, and what this dismissal was all about.
It's like we're only seeing one piece of a much bigger story.
Exactly. And without that bigger picture, it's hard to know what this 0615 thing really means.
It really shows how important it is to look at the whole context, right?
Absolutely. One line out of context can be super misleading.
Totally.
Yeah.
And don't forget that disclaimer on the affidavit.
Oh, right, about it not being verified by the court.
Yeah. So what we have here is Clay Hackett's word.
Yeah.
He's claiming this dismissal happened, but this copy of the affidavit doesn't prove it actually did.
It's his statement within a legal filing, not a definitive court ruling.
Right. So to recap, we've got Hackett's affidavit claiming 0615 was dismissed. And we've got this report which focuses on official records from the same time frame,
Right.
but doesn't mention any dismissal.
Yeah,
And it's all a bit of a mystery, isn't it?
it is.
The affidavit clearly states that dismissal happened, but it's vague about the details.
Right.
The report goes into a lot of detail about these registration records,
Uh-huh.
but doesn't connect them to any kind of legal action.
Yeah.
And the fact that the affidavit mentions Chapter 3 suggests we're missing a lot of context.
It does.
So my final question for you is this. What other information or documents would you need to see to really understand what happened here? What would help you connect the dots between these two pieces of the puzzle and figure out why Clay Hackett said 0615 was dismissed?
That's a great question. I think